So today I want to talk about one of the best wintertime and pre-spawn baits out there that I typically don't ever bring up on the channel. That is going to be a lipless crankbait. I want to talk about some of the myths that you know about a lipless crankbait and the gear that I throw it on and how to fish it to help catch more fish in your arsenal and why you really need to be throwing it right now. So the one thing that took me a long time to wrap my mind around was that a lipless crankbait is not just made for grass. When I first heard of a lipless and when I first got into this sport, I always thought that a lipless crankbait was just something southern guys threw around hydrilla and eelgrass whenever, you know, the pre-spawn was around. I never thought it would play into my application until the last couple of years. I've spent a lot more time with it in my hand, and it's actually one of my favorite baits to throw to cover rocky banks, because this time of year for most of the country is a time where water's starting to flow in, rivers are starting to get dirtier, and we're down here in Florida right now and temps are starting to warm up and those fish are starting to get ready to spawn. And even if you guys aren't, this is still going to play for you for some of the reasons that I'm going to talk about toward the middle section of this video. But what I love about this bait is when I throw it out there, I can fish it in 3 inches of water, and I can also fish it in 15 feet of water, depending on how slow I retrieve it, how I fish it, etc. It's a bait that you can cover a ton of water with, and with the sound that this bait puts out, it really draws in some really, really big strikes. And so that's one thing that I absolutely love about this bait. And for you pond guys, it is also a phenomenal pond bait, because right now what we're having is we're starting to get those warm days, those fish are starting to get shallower, and ponds heat up so fast. If you get an 80-degree day and your pond was 40 degrees, by the end of the day it might be 60 degrees and those fish will be up dirt shallow, and they're going to be super, super aggressive. And so that's what makes this bait so good, is the ability to cover water, get big bites, because as these fish come to you, you're getting a large population of big fish up shallow, which makes it super, super fun to throw these baits. But now I want to talk about the retrieve a little bit. What makes this bait so versatile is the retrieves that you throw in with it. Now, if you're fishing grass, if you're just covering water, don't get me wrong, a straight retrieve, there's nothing wrong with it. You can throw it out there and grind bottom just like you would with an actual crankbait. Use the lip of this to actually grind that rock, and that's a great way to get bites. You can throw it out, drag it like a jig in deeper water. You can also cast it out and hop that bait, where you're doing what's called yo-yoing. And when it's called yo-yoing, what you're gonna do, as I'll show you with my rod right here, is if I cast that out, all I'm gonna do is take it from here and lift it up. And I'm gonna go till I feel that bait vibrate a little bit. You'll feel it, and let it fall back down. Let it fall back down. And you can do bigger strokes, you can do shorter strokes. It's all gonna depend on how active your fish are and how aggressive they are. You can also, again, just drag it like a football jig along the bottom. A lipless crankbait gets a bad name because people tend to lose fish on a lipless. And they tend to lose fish on a lipless because this bait is going through the water most times like this, as you're reeling it. And so when those fish come up and get it, they oftentimes only get a couple hook points, and if you're not throwing the right gear, you're gonna lose a lot of fish. And that's where people really mess up, is they try to throw their same jig gear, they try to throw their same chatterbait gear, etc., that they would normally throw with everything else with a lipless. And a lot of times lipless crankbaits come with really terrible hooks. That's one thing that I love about the 6th Sense brand, is the hooks that you see on this were stock hooks. They come with great hooks right out of the package, so you already have a leg up on the competition. But the rods that I like to use with a lipless are going to be your very parabolic bend rods, your graphite rods, your really slow tapering rods. And what that means for you guys that really don't understand that yet is very soft rods, rods that are gonna load up really, really slow, because what that does for me is as those fish come up behind it and they suck at it and they try to suck it in, it gives those fish cushion to actually get that bait, and they'll have it a little bit deeper, and then when you lean on them, you're not gonna overwork those hooks if they only have one hook point in the roof of their mouth, and it just works out a whole lot better, and you're gonna land a whole lot more fish. And the same thing goes with the gear ratio reel. If I'm doing a straight retrieve, I like a 6:4 to 1 gear ratio reel, versus if I'm hopping it, I like a 7 to 1 gear ratio reel. And especially as that water starts to warm up, I'll speed my gear ratio up a little bit, but the colder that water is, the more I like to slow that gear ratio down, just because again, it's gonna dummy proof it for me, and it's gonna help me get more bites on that bait. I really enjoy fishing lipless crankbaits on big expansive flats, and that might be your mud flats in the back of a creek where those fish are kind of pulling up and it's kind of one here, one there. I like to fish it on gravelly points, those slow tapering points that come out, and I also like to fish it on really steep points, because again, you can fish this bait in super, super deep water with that yo-yo retrieve, and that's a great place where those staging areas are coming back into those pockets, those super deep points. Those fish will kind of load up on there, and you can really yo yo-yo this bait and fish it in a different way and get a lot bigger bites than most guys going through there throwing their shaky heads, throwing their jerk baits, etc. You have the opportunity to catch a lot bigger fish. A lipless crankbait also plays when it gets really, really windy. Because it has a lot of vibration and a lot of sound, those fish can really key in on it a whole lot easier than any other bait, really. And so that's something that if I'm fishing a flat area and all of a sudden that wind picks up, I really like to pick this bait up. So another bait that pairs extremely well with a lipless crankbait is your traditional style crankbaits. And right up here, I'll have a video where I break down my cold water cranking tips that are gonna play for you guys from right now up until the pre-spawn and spawn. So be sure to check that video out, hit that subscribe button to follow with the regular content. But God bless every one of you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.